I'm going to ramble for a second before I get started. I don't think any of y'all seen Dad mad before. And if you had, it was rare, and it only lasted for a burst of moment. So I'm gonna give you my best impression of Dad being mad. You all seen him with that pair of pliers in his hands, and 90% of you said something about it. So I know Dad was looking down, saying, "Jerry, get the pliers out of my hand. Now everybody looking at me. Jerry." That's as mad as he got. For that long. And then he was smiling again. I know Brother James already thanked everybody, but I personally have to thank everybody. Myself, on behalf of the family. Since the phone call, it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Been upset, been mad, been sad. But I stood there last night for 4.5 hours. I shook hands and I hugged necks. 90% of them I didn't even know. I left last night and the roller coaster was over. I felt nothing but love. So I got to thank everybody. It's been overwhelming, the love that y'all have shown this family. Too much, to be exact. To the point that, unfortunately, we had to kick people out of the house so that we can make arrangements for you to be here today. So thank you. Thank you all for that. And lastly, before I get started, I can't make up any of these stories I'm about to tell you. So please cry, laugh, say amen, whatever, because I'm going to need the break. They got a few tissues down here for me. I know I'm going to need a beach towel. Wish me luck. Byron Wayne Acker. Him and I have the same middle name and the last name, if you hadn't figured that out yet. Of course, he gave me the first name Kevin, which means handsome. So at least in his lifetime, he got one thing right. Some of you may have known him as a friend, some as a co-worker, or maybe just a plumber. But I was lucky enough to know him as Dad. See, it's easy to be a friend or a coworker or a plumber. These are part-time personal traits. But to be a dad means you're on call 24/7, 365 days a year. And Byron was a full-time dad. Dads are the backbone of the family. They provide to give their kid every opportunity to succeed. A true fact, the only man in the world that wants you to succeed more than himself is your father. From the day you were born, you were his number one fan. He was your number one fan, I'm sorry. Speaking of day one, Dad told me the story. Dad thought that my mom had cheated on him when I was born. Because when I came out in odd color blue. He was unaware that babies lack the amount of oxygen in the womb to be the correct color when they're born into the world. I can only imagine the first words I heard as a newborn was, with an odd look on his face as it turned sideways. And I don't even know how to spell I just got a bunch of question marks wrote down for that. But my hat's off to Dad. He's the definition of the American dream. Because before the 4-bedroom, 3-bath home with a swimming pool and 14 acres, we lived in a sketchy infrastructure of a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single-wide trailer off the side of Old White Road North. We weren't low class. As a matter of fact, we looked up to them. We didn't go out to eat. We only ate what was made. And the only traveling we knew of was to work, school, or back home. But if you pack your lunchbox and keep reusing the same Ziploc bags for your chips and sandwich for 30 plus years, it's possible to make it out. And yes, he reused his Ziploc bags for lunch. And no, not the nice ones with the self-closing zipper on it. The cheap ones with the manual 2 lines that you push together and hope that it stays shut. If you didn't know Byron was cheap, then you didn't know my dad. Byron got to the point in his life where he could afford a nice vehicle. And I'll give you an example. He refused to drive it because putting miles on it would depreciate the value of the thing. If you ever did see him in his new ride, the windows were down because he was afraid the AC would mess up his miles per gallon, and that would cost too many trips to the gas station. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but they don't give away windshield wipers. So he would only use them when he absolutely could not see the road. And I remember when Miss Karen and Mr. Mark would visit during the winter months, Mr. Mark would always bring his own blanket. Not that Dad wouldn't let him borrow a blanket, but because Dad wouldn't pay to heat the house over 60 degrees. But that's how Dad was. He knew what it was to not have, so he had a hard time letting go of what he did. Looking back now, I wish I could have told him how proud I was of him for what all he did and all he accomplished. Not only did he climb out of poverty, but he did something as a dad that most dads won't. He adopted my brother Mark by giving him our last name. Mark had been a part of our family and a part of my life since the age of 2. He had a biological dad, but had little to no interaction with him. So Byron stepped up and took the step out of stepdad to let Mark know that he was no longer a stepson, but a true son of his own. And Mark wasn't treated any different than Corey or myself. That was a selfless task that most dads don't take on. But Byron had a heart of gold. And that heart of gold didn't just stop at being a dad. That heart of gold extended to Byron's entire personality. Because when he smiled, it was contagious. As a matter of fact, everybody in this room probably can't recall a time he wasn't. When it came to work, he was an hour early. If Byron could, he would. If he couldn't, he'd find a way. The only thing you couldn't get Byron to do was spend money, which is probably the only arguments him and Sherry had. Speaking of Sherry, Sherry was a single mom when they first met, and Byron was a single dad without a dollar to spend. Each had a 2-year-old boy that was 6 months apart to the day. So before they decided to marry, this story had Jerry Springer Recipe for Disaster written all over it. People around town thought Mark and I were twins for the longest. But Sherry was special. She was a true diamond in the rough. And I'm glad Dad found her. You wouldn't look at our family and think we came from nothing. But if these two hadn't met, you would. Like I said, Dad was the backbone. He worked hard and always had 2 jobs. On the other hand, Sherry was the brains of the family. She was smart. And as much as Dad liked to hide cash from Sherry so she wouldn't spend it, she was secretly hiding money from Dad. I know it doesn't quite make sense to understand. You've got to understand the difference between cash and money. Cash you can hold in your hand while money just sits in the bank. And Dad didn't understand how the bank system worked, how to use a debit card, or most importantly, how to read a bank statement. Byron and Sherry aren't too different when it comes to having love and a heart of gold. Sherry never treated me as a stepson and only showed me unconditional love my entire life. Unfortunately for her, I treated her like a stepmom for the first 10 years of their marriage. As a child, I didn't understand what was going on or why I had to share my parents with other families. I know it was hard on you and Byron both, but I want to thank you for giving my dad a partner that even a stepson could be proud of, and thank you for never giving up on me. Eventually they had Corey, my youngest brother. He was the baby, AKA Mama's boy. Being the third kid, you'd think that Byron had the whole dad role figured out by now. But boy, was he wrong. Corey would prove to be the hardest one to raise out of the 3 of us. Not that Corey was a bad kid, but because Corey was just like Byron. Not only did he look like Byron, but he acted like Byron. Character-wise, that's not a bad thing. But Dad had a bad habit that you don't quite want your 14-year-old to have, and that was the disappearance of snuff cans. It was a constant battle for years until Corey was legally old enough to buy his own, which at that point, they began to share the habit together. I can't talk about Dad without saying a few words about his work ethic. Dad was a plumber for as long as I can remember, and more than likely worked on everybody's houses in this room, if not every house in the town of West Point. He would eventually land a job at the water department for the city of West Point, which he retired from after serving 32 years with an additional 2.5 years of unused sick and vacation time. And for no reason at all, he was an hour earlier to work every day. After he retired from the city, he went back to the city to work part-time. Dad just didn't understand what part-time meant. After almost messing up his retirement, Sherry made him quit. Again. Like I said, Sherry was the brains. Dad just didn't understand or didn't know how to stop to work. So since Sherry wouldn't let him work at the water department, he got a job with a contractor to do maintenance on the lock and dam. Little did he know there was a massive cleanup job about to happen. The company he worked for rented a hotel and a van for 45 days to do this job. He would wake up, get on the van, work for 12 hours, get back on the van, and head back to the hotel for 45 straight days at 60 years old. He was allowed visitors on Sunday, so if we wanted to lay eyes on him, we had to drive to Columbus to see him. I don't think Byron ever went to jail, but that might have been the closest thing to it. Shortly after that, he decided to work at a local hardware store called Phillips and to do a little plumbing on the side. It was time to slow down, time to enjoy the retirement money and start collecting from Uncle Sam. now that he's old enough to pull Social Security. No longer was he going to work 12-hour days for anyone anymore. From now on, he decided to only work 8 hours a day at Phillips and another 5 hours for himself. Yep, if you do the math, he went from 12 hours to 13, Monday through Friday and Saturday. I can only hope that my retirement doesn't quite turn out that way. I know he did it for the money, but working was both a hobby and a habit that Dad loved to do. He loved it and people. Throughout the years, I can't tell you the amount of phone calls we got during family Sunday lunch. Whether someone had a leaky toilet, a clogged drain, he answered every call. If he could, he'd try to walk you through it over the phone. If not, he'd make arrangements to get there as fast as possible. Byron's phone rang off the hook for help, but never asked for it in return. I know he charged for his services, but if it was little and you couldn't afford it, he didn't mind. Byron was a good plumber and a hard worker. But after 13-hour work days, he was a great pawpaw. Dad had 5 grandkids: Tristan, Toby, Noah, Asher, and Murphy. His legacy. He was so proud of these kids and loved them unconditionally. People outside the family don't quite know this, but Dad had a good imagination, and kids flocked to him for playtime. He was a big kid to them. If they wanted to put on makeup and have tea time, he was the Queen of England that needed a makeover and sat on the floor to be the guest of honor. I watched as he pretended to be a dinosaur, a princess, a chicken. Whatever the kids were into at the moment, he fulfilled their creation. When it came to ball games, Papa would show up covered in mud from a plumbing job just to see his kids play. If they had a play at school or a program at church, he was there and the first to tell them how good of a job they did, whether they did or not. This was also about the time in life that money didn't bother him. We started going on family trips. Family lunch on Sunday was created. But family Sunday lunch on Sunday wasn't enough for him. He had to put in a swimming pool so the grandkids would stay a little bit longer after they ate. We spent hours and hours just sitting and watching the grandkids enjoy the fruits of his labor. And Papa did a lot for his grandkids. But I'm sure in his eyes, he could have done more and would have if he was given enough time. But time ran out. And I've never been a fan of turning someone's death into a service to get people to turn their life over to God. But Dad was a Christian. And I think he'd be proud if I would at least say a few words about salvation. So I'm going to make it kind of short and quick on this part. Nothing was wrong with Byron. He went to bed and never woke up. That man right there is the definition of tomorrow isn't guaranteed. I don't know if you're saved or not, but I encourage you, if you ever want to see this man again, you better get right with God. They say you can't get into heaven by being a good person, but if you could, he'd be in first place. He was a good man that took his family to church on Wednesdays and Sundays. he was a believer in Christ. And if you're not, or not sure, there's an easy way to know. Every time you go to church and the preacher offers an invitation at the end of the service, and you fight the urge to walk down that aisle, you're fighting Jesus. That's God pulling on your heart to come down and join the family. I'm a part of that family. Byron's a part of that family. And when all this is over, and you want to be a part of the family, see Brother James, I'll do what I can and help you get signed up. I can't promise that we can change your last name to Acker, but I can promise that one day we'll travel the streets of gold together. I did my best to paint you a picture of who Byron was, but I struggled through the tears and the pain to make Dad's usually what it should be. I missed a lot, and I tried to find the correct verbiage. But words aren't enough to describe a perfect man. He had a personality and a character that only God himself could have created. I think in summary, Byron Wayne Acker is the definition of love. A husband, a papa, son, brother, a friend, a co-worker, a Christian, and the most important one to me, a father.